Hi, my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and this is another quick yoga tutorial specifically on cueing. I made an earlier video about cueing in the context of sun salutation, sun A, and so now I'm going to do the same thing, but we'll take a look at sun salutation B, where we start to add in warrior one. And this can start to present some additional challenges because now the movements are getting a little more complicated. And one of the things I talked about in the first video was the fact that when your students are in class, their attention span is very limited. So as teachers, we need to be sure that our instruction is short, is impactful, really speaks to the body, and doesn't have a lot of excess stuff, which is just going to distract the practitioners. We want to speak to their bodies and hopefully through that technique create essential action. And that then gives us an opportunity as teachers to look and see if what we've said has resulted in the desired action. And if not, we probably have one more opportunity in that posture to change it up a bit and see if that helps. And if not, my recommendation at that point is to move on. So with that as a backdrop, and if you missed the other video, you can just go back and take a look at it. Let's go into sun salutation B. So sun B takes on warrior one. So let's just take a look at warrior one as a posture and how we might cue that. So coming from downward facing dog, because that's where we would be, we would say, potentially, step the right foot forward. Okay, so that might be just super simple there. Drop the back heel, reach up. Okay, now, if you've done this posture, which I'm sure you have, you probably know right there might be a lot of challenges. It might be hard for the person to keep the heel down. It might be too narrow a base, so they might be wobbly. They might have some tightness in their back hip, so they might be leaning forward. They might have some tightness in their shoulders, so they might have their arms bent and they might be hunched in. So because I specialize in yoga anatomy, there's a whole bunch of other things that I can recommend you say to address those things if you see them. But let's just kind of stick with just general approach, okay, just general ideas. So coming from from downward dog, and oftentimes, let me just add, you might have students lift the leg. That's kind of a standard thing these days. So you could say lift the right leg, step the foot forward. What I like to say at that point is just come up. Just get them upright. And as they come up, they may naturally drop their back heel or they may not. But once you get them upright, you can ask them to drop their back heel. So it's helpful to then really speak to their foundation. Doesn't really make much sense initially to talk to what's going on at the top because the posture is really built from what's happening at the ground and then up from there. So if I see them hunching and I ask them to do stuff with their arms and their torso, it doesn't really make much sense if I don't speak to what's happening at the ground and get that in right order first. So if I might see something like this, or if I might see something like this, I could say step the right foot more to the right, drop the back heel. I think it's really important to get their foundation steady first because then they can address some of the other issues. So you could say things like press into the floor, press your heels down, root your heels down, feel the pressure into the ground. That gets a little wishy-washy because of the feeling word, but think about action words. Press down, push down, press your heels down, okay? Now the other complicating factor is the centering aspect. We're trying to get the hips centered to the front of the room. Sometimes you might hear the word square, but I think that the idea of a square is a pretty harsh vision, right? And some words tend to land pretty harsh, in a harsh way on the practitioner. So it's helpful. We don't want to be wishy-washy, but we want to think about what are the words we're using that can communicate the correct action without causing the person to kind of jolt their body into the shape because they hear a word that they can relate to. So if I say to you, square your hips, you might abruptly shift your hips. If I say center your hips, you might do it in a little bit more of a mindful way. So keeping in mind that for them to center their hips, let me do it this way. For them to center their hips to the front of the mat, it completely depends on the position of their back foot. So if their back foot is turned out, they can turn and turn and turn all they want. It's going to be really hard for them to get this right hip around. The ankle joint is lower than the hip joint, so that's going to potentially have an impact on what's going on here because it's lower down the chain, if you kind of think of it like links in a chain. So I might have to say, turn your back foot in a little bit. I don't get into things like 45 degrees. I don't really think people can comprehend degrees at specific numeric values when they're trying to do yoga. So I like to use terms that are just generally understandable. Turn your back foot in. Turn your back foot in a little bit. Okay? And then I might say, center your hips. Because I know that to work them from the bottom up is going to give them a better opportunity than if I talk to them about their hip without addressing what's going on with their foot. Okay? So again, this might be turn the back foot in a bit, press the heel down, center the hip. Draw the right hip forward. That's an idea. Okay? And then as far as the upper body, I could say reach your arms up. I could say stack your shoulders over your hips. That's another thing to communicate getting the torso upright. I could say arms by the ears. That could be something else. And then there's a whole host of other things I could say to address problems I might see. And of course, I mean problems in, a soft, gentle way. We're not talking about trying to force people into an ideal. But I could say things like take your arms wider if you feel your shoulders are a little bit tight or you're hunching. I could say bring the base of the pose a little shorter by drawing your back foot in. So these are all things that you can throw in on that kind of round 2 of verbal cueing. So you might throw out kind of the standard general instruction nugget, look, and then adjust your instruction to 1 or 2 points. You look out in the room, you see a couple of people like this, you see a couple of people leaning forward, you might address those 2 things and then move on, right? We're not going for perfection here. So let's go into it from the pose itself. All right, so bring the feet together, take the right leg up, step the right foot forward, reach up to the sky. Press both feet down, center the hips by drawing the right hip back. Maybe turn that back foot in a little bit. Reach up, take a breath, exhale, hands down, step to plank. Hold your plank for a moment, come forward and lower, hug the elbows in. Coming into upward dog, stack the shoulders over the wrists, and then downward dog, tuck the toes. Bring the feet together, take the left leg up, step the foot forward, reach to the sky. Press your heels down, lift up through the arms, draw the left hip back, take an inhale, and then release. As you lower down, push down. Upward dog, shoulders over the wrists. Downward facing dog, exhale. All right, so again, in the spirit of keeping this video a little on the shorter side, there's so much more I could say. Certainly that movement from high to low push-up, I have a whole online course which is on my website, which just goes into the cues for that one piece, because there's quite a bit of anatomy involved there and quite a bit of stuff involved there, action-wise, that can go awry, that we don't want to go awry for our students. I would say too, something I mentioned in the first video is I personally don't get super involved in cueing to breath. I know some of you might think, oh my God, yoga is a breathing practice, how could you not do that? I really believe that if I can adequately, or more than adequately, physically cue students, their breath is going to come with greater ease. And especially in the front end of the sequence, to give them a little more on the physical cueing side. And then as they start to get more comfortable and more acclimated to the movement itself, the movement practice itself, then start to add in a little bit more about breath. They're feeling more integrated, they're feeling more coordinated. It's kind of hard, I think, to focus on breath a lot at the expense of the physical cueing. And you only have limited time, so you have to kind of make a choice. What are you going to focus on? If you have questions, comments, leave them below. Send me an email. My email is karen@barebonesyoga.com. My website is barebonesyoga.com, and I have a number of different things on the website that you can download for free. Different worksheets for teachers, anatomy worksheets. I also have a webinar page where I have a number of webinars that are free. You can listen to them. They're educational. And I also have online courses. So if you're looking for a way to learn yoga anatomy, take a look at the online courses. And one of them is a 10-hour course. And all of the online courses are good for Yoga Alliance approved continuing education credits. So you can get CEUs for doing the online courses. Take a look at the books page. I've got a number of books. My latest book was just released in May called Structure and Spirit. So there's, it's really a teaching resource. I wanted to create a portal for teachers, a website that they could go to, that they could learn to trust, that they could learn to access different teaching tools for teachers and resources really around yoga anatomy, which is my love, my passion, but also different aspects of running a teaching business as well. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and namaste.